need for that.
All right, so we'll let you start, Michelle. I don't know if you want to go off what you have so far or start with what the group has. Kind of up to you.
Yeah, I'll go with the questions that well, first of all, because I think many of the women out here are interested in menopause stuff. Um, and I will say these are kind of like my Bible books. Um, this bottom one actually was written by a friend of mine who had a pretty rough experience throughout menopause, and she's actually on the speaking circuit now, and she's really funny. I was hoping that she still had her podcast out there, but anyway, Amanda Thebe, Jen Gunter, the Menopause Manifesto, Next Level by Stacy Sims. I think a lot of the women in this group particularly would be interested in her things. She's got another book, Women Aren't Small Men. It's another good one, and one called Roar. And then Mary Claire Haven, The New Menopause. She gets pretty deep into like hormone replacement. And if you're not even close to menopause, I'm telling you, the more you can learn about it in your 30s and 40s, the better off you're going to be. These are also two really good books that I love. Built to Move is by Kelly Starrett. He's really a physical therapist, but he's huge into mobility and great just habits to get into now when you're, in your 20s, 30s, and on up. And then Peter Attia, he's just the bomb. So just some great information from him. And if y'all don't know what this one is, this is awesome for the athletic crew. Was co-written by, I believe he was an ultra marathoner and a cyclist. So really good. I usually make my own portables for when I'm riding um, because I try to eat as the least amount of processed foods as I possibly can. So I just wanted to share those things because somebody asked about podcasts, and I'm not a huge, I have my favorite podcasts, but I tend to listen to more fitness-based ones by fitness gurus. Um, but the one that I do like is Hit Play Not Pause, and I bet you are all very familiar with that one. I just like Stacey Sims, I like Celine. Um, I just I like their approach and thought process as well. So I think it was Kristen that had asked about fatigue, and my theory has kind of changed on that just because there have been some instances where I have set out to go out on one particular ride with a group, and I embark on the journey and I'm climbing a hill and I'm just feeling like total crap. And my thought on that is there's no way I'm going to complete that ride. I am just going to then take it easy, just do what I can do. And there's a reason for that fatigue. What I found for me that it was more of a low energy thing because I wasn't properly fueling the days leading up to the ride. I was on this crazy, you know, calorie deficit and trying to maintain a low body weight. Of course, we're women, right? That's what we want. We want to look skinny, and at least I tend to appreciate that. And what it did was it just put me in that low energy state, which you'll read about, right? So I think as you are getting older, it's really important to really read your body. If you're not feeling it, that means you probably underfueled or you overtrained. Most often, uh, it's it's you doing one or the other and then still trying to push through something that's really intense. And it's also very different if you're in a strength training modality versus planning to go out on a 50-mile bike ride. Like you can do more damage on that 50-mile bike ride because of the length of time um, than you can if you're trying to put in like a half an hour strength training workout. What I would do is just drop my load and drop the intensity because in a strength training environment, it's much easier to adjust versus when you're out there riding and, oh, crap, I got, a 10% grade hill I got to climb right now, and I'm not feeling it. So I think every individual is really different, and you have to look at what happened the week leading up to that event. What was your training like? What was your fueling like? And make that decision because what could happen is, you could injure yourself for sure. And sometimes when you're just so physically dead and you're out there, especially if you're on the road or you're mountain biking, I mean, you got to think about how that impacts your ability to react, respond, what's going on in your head mentally when you're that fatigued. Oh, hi, kitty. So I am more on the don't push through, especially if you are outside in an environment where you could potentially just do something really dumb. And also, again, looking at how much recovery time you've given yourself, what has your fueling been like, depending on the activity. Obviously, if you're doing more strength training and shorter type workouts, you're going to want to really focus on the protein. If you're out doing an endurance event, you should be making sure that you're monitoring your protein, your fat, and your carbohydrates. So, um, unfortunately, I always say it really depends on the situation. I think Kristen is probably more in that menopausal stage. So, to answer the question more for her, um, what causes the fatigue during that stage in the game? There's a lot of things that could possibly be happening, but we know that our hormones are changing. Estrogen affects your energy levels, it affects your mood, your metabolism, and there's also other things that are going on with your sleep, right? If you're waking up in the middle of the night because you're going through hot flashes, night sweats, whatever it might be, um, and also sometimes if you need more progesterone, it's probably more so as you're going through perimenopause when all of that stuff is all over the place that you're going to be more having those restless type nights. Once you're through it, chances are you're going to sleep better, but not necessarily. But you're probably having less hot flashes once you're stabilizing, right? So if you're not sleeping and you're trying to push yourself, you're just not going to have that energy because we know that when we're sleeping, that's when the human growth hormone is basically starting to occur in the body. Our cortisol's dropping down, our serotonin should be increasing. So all of the hormonal things that are going on while you're sleeping, if the sleep's not happening, those things aren't going to happen. So your recovery is going to be poor. You're not going to be able to build the muscle, and you're just not going to have that ability to really get into your deep sleep cycles and your REM sleep cycles. So I could go into a lot more about sleep, but I just wanted to talk about how the sleep interruptions. Lots of women might even have insomnia. So really depends on what's going on. But I always say sleep is like the foundation of your health. So you really gotta try to do as much as you can to fix your sleep, which will for sure help your energy levels. Um, Sometimes just that chronic stress and cortisol can cause you to not be able to sleep, and also just that mental fatigue from having that stress. is causing your body to be fatigued. And is another, potential because women especially tend to hold their stress in their hips and on their shoulders, right? The weight of the world. So, um, as far as the cyclist is concerned, or even just, the endurance athlete, think about where you're holding your stress and how that's impacting your movements. So always make sure that just recently I did a 3 hour seminar on Tai Chi and it was wonderful. So I think, especially for women that have been athletes all their lives, they want to continue to drive and push. You got to have that balance, the yin and the yang, so that, you're not always focusing on pushing, pushing, pushing. We need to find that balance. When should you really rest or modify? If you're completely exhausted, dizzy, you're feeling burnout, when you're pushing that hard, exercise is a form of stress, right? So if you're not sleeping, that's stress on the body. If you're really stressed out, that's stress. Um, then you're adding strength training or riding, all of those things are additional stress on the body. So that's where I say, really take a big picture of what's going on with your body. And, it might be that you need to take a week off, um, and or build more things like yoga, mobility work, Tai Chi, things that are not, or just walking, but not at like a crazy intensity. So you're still doing something. It's just not going to be that constant drive, where you're pushing yourself to that point of exhaustion. So, and again, if you're feeling like you're not really recovering, or if you're experiencing joint pain or extreme soreness, then that probably means you need to focus a little bit more on rest and recovery. And even, again, the rest and recovery type movements like yoga, Tai Chi, Pilates, stretching, mobility work, those types of things. Does that all make sense? Any questions on that? Um, Second question was, do our protein requirements increase, decrease, remain unchanged as we head into menopause, during menopause, after menopause? Are there any other nutrition need changes that athletes should know? And 100%, the answer is yes, you should be studying this stuff, or, working with somebody that can help you figure that out. The second part of that answer, part B, is it really depends on your goals, right? So there's what I call, and I may have mentioned this to you guys before, the triangle awareness, right? So when it comes to your goals, are they aesthetic? Are they performance? Or are they really your longevity? You can't be 100% in each one of those corners. So kind of like, where do your goals fall? Do you want to put more muscle on? Then you're going to need more protein, and there's going to be, a bulking phase that you might want to participate in. Do you want to lose weight? Well, you're going to still need to increase your protein, and we may need to be a little more conscientious about the carbohydrates that you're taking in. Really utilize that based on your activity level. Definitely, I will say 10 out of 10 women, men over the age of 40 do not eat enough protein for the minimum amount that they should be eating. So, definitely doing some study on your nutrition will help you, especially if you're an athlete. And yes, your needs are going to change as you're getting older, because once you hit the age of 30, that's really when our bodies peak, right? And we need to then start adjusting. I don't know, how many of us are over the age of 30, but I remember post having my kids, hitting my like 34, 35, and I used to teach a lot and I would ride my bike. And so exercising a ton, and I was really cross training. So I would lift, I would do cardio, I'd ride, I had yoga built in there. And I was still noticing like, wow, I'm putting on a little weight here. So then I would start cutting food groups out, not really measuring what I was doing, and then switching more to eating healthy, right? Getting more fruits and vegetables in and increasing my protein. Then I hit my 40s, started getting even a little bit harder. Then when I hit my late 40s, I was like, holy crap, what the heck's going on? I'm putting on weight. I don't understand what's going on with my body. And I really had to dial my nutrition in. I always say the earlier you can learn about nutrition and how it really impacts your life in so many ways, the better off you're going to be as you get older, and you can just adjust that. And thinking about your nutrition, if you think about that as much as you periodize your training, the same concept you can apply to your nutrition. So there's going to be times when you want to eat less, exercise more, eat more, exercise less, eat more, exercise more. So I always think about those four quadrants, and you should really kind of periodize your whole exercise and nutrition in that way throughout the course of the year. Um, and any questions on that? Okay. All right, the next one was about skin. I've been told the skin dries out faster, easier during and after menopause. If that's true, does our body struggle with hydration more too? Would like to hear about this if there's an impact. As far as dry skin is concerned, 100%. Estrogen has a huge impact on your skin hydration. As a matter of fact, estrogen has over 400 functions in the body. So imagine, coming to a screeching halt and you're not producing that anymore. There's so much impact then occur. And yes, your body does adjust eventually, but it's helpful if you can understand the things that you need to do to make that process a little bit less impactful, so to speak, or dramatic, I should say. We're definitely producing less natural oils, which leads to dryness. One of the first things I noticed was just how much, like, I hardly ever have to wash my hair, which is a bonus. But then, like, my skin just needs so much more hydration. And yes, your body also needs that hydration. So, making sure that you're drinking. I am not one that's huge on taking like daily hydration products, but I know folks that are out there that do it. I just try to make sure that I'm getting enough water throughout my day. Um, so on that, we're losing collagen for sure. We do have, without the estrogen, we do have a weaker skin barrier, so it is harder to retain moisture. And it does impact all of our cells, right? In general, our cells are not producing as quickly. So you'll notice as you're getting older, when you get injured, healing a cut or a bruise takes longer. And that's just the nature of our body. I remember one time attending a chiropractic seminar, and they were talking about the plasma, the PRP, that I'm sure you guys have heard about. And they were talking about how much faster as a 2-year-old your cells are rapidly reproducing at like 2 billion, something like that. And then, you get into your 40s and it's like 100,000. I can't remember the exact statistic, but it was so drastic. And that impacts everything, right? So, even when it comes to your skin, like microdermabrasion, do that for yourself. Help your body get rid of those dead skin cells. And the microneedling, you can get self tools to do your microneedling. And then just make sure that you're using a good skincare regimen because there's so much that's happening. We're losing elastin, we're losing prolactin, we're losing collagen, and that's not just our skin, that's all of our soft tissue within our body, which is why, we're more injury prone as we're getting older. So think about ways that you can um, really keep those things replenished if unless you're going to be going on hormone replacement, right? So using a good skincare routine. If anybody's interested, I just recently started, I think it was last April or May, and it's made a huge difference in my skincare or in my skin. Changed my whole regimen. I'm one of those people that needs the step one, step two, step three, step four. I remember in my 30s, I was using Mary Kay. Um, and I've since moved to a similar company, but their products are a little bit better, I think. So anyway, that's really important. And obviously, yes, you need to make sure that you're hydrating as you're aging because we know if it's happening to our skin, then it's happening to our cells as well. What can you do for your skin and also then internally? Make sure you're hydrating. You want to make sure that you're drinking at 64 ounces of water. I think that's a little on the lower side. Um, if you have weight loss that you're thinking about, you definitely want half your body weight in ounces or at least half your goal weight in ounces. But then also think about like foods that you can eat that are hydrating as well. Cucumbers, avocados, watermelon, that kind of stuff, to include that. Make sure that you're moisturizing after you get out of the shower and head to toe, right? You can use humidifiers to help, especially those of you that are in the Northeast. It's, your heater's running a lot. So just make sure that you're helping combat your dry skin by potentially using a humidifier. And then make sure if you are doing that, that you are cleaning it, because those things can be like bacteria laden, right? Omega 3s, adding things like salmon, flax seeds, walnuts, that'll help support skin hydration. Um, Estrogen, topical estrogen creams you can try, or again, it's a something that you might want to consider if you have a doctor that is well versed in hormone replacement. Make sure that you're going to somebody that knows what you're doing. I'm on a mission to do that myself this year. Um, Also, hot showers, right? We know that hot showers and harsh soap are going to strip the skin's natural oil. So just watch your temperatures. Although I love me a nice hot shower. And then again, just a reminder to make sure that you are drinking plenty of water. Any questions on that? Pretty straightforward.
But can you just say what is microderm abrasion and microneedling?
So, microdermabrasion, and I can share with you, I got it off of Amazon. There, you just get a blade and you scrape across your skin. And what that does is it not only removes the peach fuzz that you get on your face, you want to go in all the different directions, but it helps um, get rid of the dead skin cells. And then usually the way I do it, and I've gone to an esthetician, a friend of mine, we used to trade years ago. She would put rubbing alcohol on my face. Then she would do the scraping, and you want to do it carefully. She would use a blade. I would not recommend that. But they sell, there's one that's on Amazon. It actually comes with a little light and you just do the replacement blades, they probably only last like for 3 sessions, but you want to make sure that you're going in all directions on your skin. So this way, diagonally, and then the micro needling, there's this little roller thing, and you just do that on your face, and then you want to try to push in the hyaluronic acid, the different face serums, um, and that really it really helps. And then finish with a moisturizer. Um, Two products that I have found recently that I love. One is like a microdermabrasion scrub that you put on. The one that I use is from Beauty Society. It's called Crystal Ball. And I've been doing that with a mask. It's like a hydrogen mask that you put on. I'll do that twice a week, and it's made a huge difference in my hydration. And it's funny because if I do the mask and I'm not consistent with it, for whatever reason, when I moved in the middle of October this past year, I just got out of my routines, and that was one of them. So I would notice when I put the mask on, it took longer for the bubbles to dissipate because it was really like working on the hydration. So that it was pretty cool then when I went back to my regular routine to see that, oh, okay, I don't really have any dry spots. Like it's really um, evenly dissipating off of my skin. So those two products have been game changers. But, as you're getting older, you definitely and learn this again. If I would have known in my 20s how important skincare was, I used to go to bed with my makeup on, not even washing your face. That is like the number one. You talk to any esthetician and they will tell you if you can do anything, wash your face. Like, do not go to bed without washing your face because you think about your skin is the biggest organ on your body, right? Um, and all of the toxins that we come across throughout the day, even just walking around outside, there's just so many on the surface area of your skin, and that's all toxins, right? You want to wash that crap off, and then at the very least, make sure you've got a really good moisturizer um, for your skin type. So it's always good to either go see an esthetician, get yourself on a decent line of products, because you want the stuff to be penetrating your skin, right? And I always tell the story. I was either going to start seeing an esthetician or start using these products. And it just so happened that my friend was having this spa party. So I started using the products. And about 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, I ran into the esthetician and she's like, "What have you been doing to your skin?" I'm like, "Oh, okay. If you noticed a change, then, it's working." So I think the biggest thing is just make sure you have a routine. Um, that that's what I'll have to say. But the microdermabrasion, the microneedling, and then pumping the serums into your face and moisturizing is really helpful. And especially again, as you're aging. I have a friend who is an esthetician, and I want to have her on to talk about your skin and, even what to do. Not necessarily even just for women that are in menopause, just women in general. What's the best way to take care of your skin? Um, but you definitely want to have a skincare routine of sorts. So, and at the very least, never go to bed without washing your face. Any questions on that? Any other questions? All right. And then a couple of people asked about training zones. Um, and basically, your training zones relate to your heart rate. And the reason you want to train in different areas is because you're trying to train or target specific training adaptations. And I really pulled from Stacy Sims on this one, and more so in relating to women over 40 because that's the demographic that I'm in, and most of the women that I work with are in. So there's 5 different zones. Um, Zone 1 is basically like you're walking, right? Zone 2 would be more low intensity aerobic base building. So that's like cruising on the flats. Oop. Um, you're you're not pushing too hard. You can have a conversation. And I can actually share with you the if you want to figure out what your zones in particular are. Um, I have to find I actually have a Google document on that where you can just pop your age and everything in there. So if you guys want that, I can find it and then send it to Hunter or post it in the group. But so that would be your easier cardio. You're able to have a conversation. It's 60 to 70% of your maximum heart rate, which is all part of the equation, right? So some of the benefits there, you're improving your fat metabolism, your cardiovascular endurance. Why does it matter for women in midlife? Because it helps with hormonal balance. Like I was saying, it's not like that constant drive and intensity. It's going to be longer bouts of exercise where, almost like a joyride, not quite a joyride, but a little bit more intense. But it's going to be something that's not really going to impact your cortisol, and you're going to feel okay while you're doing it. Zone 3 is more moderate intensity. Your effort level, it's a little bit harder, but it's still sustainable. And you're working at 70 to 80% of your maximum heart rate. It's going to help your general cardiovascular fitness, but it's not going to be one of those things where, you're going to really challenge adaptation. Sim says that you should really avoid overdoing this zone because it's not intense enough for a lot of benefits, and it's actually a little bit more challenging to recover after that. So she's a proponent of not necessarily staying in that zone. Zone 4 and 5 is your higher intensity anaerobic and your power training. So those are going to be short bursts of all out effort, 80 to 100% of your maximum heart rate. So think like sprints, decent, grade hills. You're not going to be on that forever, but you're going to be like dying while you're doing it. That's where you're building strength, lean muscle, and for women that are concerned about their insulin sensitivity, that can help with that as well. Um, so why is it important for women over 40? Helps with muscle, fights aging effects. You'll see if you get that book Outlive, Peter Attia talks about that too. Increases your energy efficiency. And again, that would be things like sprint intervals, high intensity interval training, or even like lifting heavy, but maybe doing like 4 sets of 6 or 5 sets of 5, or even, you're doing sets of 3 every minute on the minute. So that would be an example of zones 4 and 5. So what Dr. Sims says for women over the age of 40, you're prioritizing zone 2 training for metabolic health and longevity, but you want to make sure that you're working in the high intensity zone 4 and 5 stuff for muscle and strength. And again, she says you want to make sure that you're not doing too much of the zone 3. If anything, avoiding that because it can increase your cortisol and fatigue. So going back to that, the first question about low energy and fatigue, examining your past workouts, get a heart rate monitor, and actually know what zone you're in. And then, of course, we know that strength training is just a non-negotiable at this age. And again, start in your 20s and just make that part of your habit, part of your fitness. because we want to be able to hang on to that muscle. And you're still in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, you're still really pretty easily able to build muscle. It's once you hit menopause and above that it starts getting much harder. And muscle really is the key to the fountain of youth, in my opinion. So, any questions on zone training?
I don't have a question, but like the zone two and the zone 4, 5 stuff, I think that's pretty standard across the board, like whatever
Okay.
age. Um, there's a big push and even like pro triathlon, there's like a joke of just like zone two only workouts. So like spending a lot of time in zone two, and then you have your like 1 or 2 key sessions in 4 and 5. Uh,
Yeah, that
so
makes sense. Good to
yeah.
know.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say like at least from what I listen to, which is a lot of triathlon stuff, that's like and what I've done with 2 coaches now, that's like pretty standard.
Well, I think because of the volume of training, with triathletes, that's where it becomes super important because you have to
Yeah.
allow your body to recover.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to burn out.
Right.
And, that's not going to help them, not going to help you at all. And if you're not doing the zone two training, um, and you're in that zone, that gray zone, right? Your body is going to take the energy that's required because it's still, when you're in that zone, you're still not doing the short bursts. It's going to be longer extended periods of time.
Yeah.
Body is going to take the fuel it needs. So where is it going to come from? It's coming from your muscle. We know that glycogen is only stored for 90 minutes, right? So, and that's where really your fueling becomes super important, and getting that equation right for yourself. I was working with a guy who wanted to do part of the Tour de France a couple years ago. So we built out an entire spreadsheet and we're like, okay, at this point in time, you need to have this many calories and, every half hour, based on his training stats, we were like making sure that he was refueling properly. So, I can't say enough about the importance of that. And again, making sure that you've got that balance of the high intensity stuff, the strength training, the zone two. I mean, it's like you could spend your your whole life figuring out what your
Yeah.
workouts is like. But finding that balance and really every woman's also different. And I just sent this thing over to my daughter. I had done a hormone certification and we were talking about like working out for your cycle, um, which was pretty cool. And that was nothing. But I mean, I remember when I was younger in my 20s and 30s and just feeling so exhausted. And I was a group exercise instructor. I'm like, I gotta teach, and you just push through it, but it's not a good idea.
Hmm.
Um, I want to see if I can find that because I think it would be valuable for those of you that are still getting your cycle. Um, I sent her a screenshot just recently because she's dealing with wicked periods. Yeah, cycle syncing. So follicular phase, cardio-based, intense hikes. Um, so that's probably more the zone two training. Um, Ovulation, that's your HIIT workouts, your boxing, your sprints. Luteal phase, when your hormones are down, Pilates, resistance, strength training. Menstruation, low impact, walking, yoga, stretching, rest. So, you know, that's pretty much how you feel, right? When you're during,
Literally. Yeah.
so, yeah, pretty cool. Um, so any questions on the zone training? So when I was figuring that out, um, I used the Carvonian formula, and you can Google that. It's pretty standard out there. And then just remember the zones. The zone two is 60 to 70% of your max heart rate. So when you're figuring out the calculation, you want your lower range and your upper range. So you want to use that point 0.6 to point 0.7. And it's you take your resting heart rate, it's 220 minus your age, subtract out your resting heart rate, and then you multiply zero point 0.6 for the low end, zero point 0.7 for the high end. You add your resting heart rate back in, and then you have your range there. And that's what's nice about wearing a heart rate monitor, um, that you can monitor that. And then zone three was the 70 to 80. And then zone four is 80 to 90. Zone five is 90 to 100. So just so you have those numbers there.
How do you spell Carvonian?
Um,
Carv
I think
Carv
it's Karvonian,
Okay.
Carbonian formula.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Um, like I said, I know I have a spreadsheet somewhere on my Google Drive for that. Um, there was a woman that owns a medical fitness gym. I was training in there for a little while, and she was, figure out what the training zones are. And I'm like, why don't you just create one spreadsheet and you can just pop everything in and then, be done with it instead of trying to do that for every person individually. So, if you're interested in that, I can dig it up and find it for you guys. I think that was all the questions that came through. Anything else that anybody on here wants to ask?
I joined late. This is Crystal. So I don't know if this has been asked already. And if so, let me know and I'll watch the recording. Has anyone asked about like perimenopause and like supplements or like hip pain for no reason and you know what supplements work, like Pro Vitalize or anything like that? Like I haven't started taking any supplements, but I'm definitely having hip pain and it sucks.
Yeah, so unfortunately, that is the estrogen talking to you or not talking to you. Uh,
Oh.
so things that you can take as far as supplements are concerned, I've heard of that one that you were just talking about. I don't know. I'm very sus.
Yeah.
The targeting that is going on for menopausal women right now because it is such a topic and everybody is trying to capitalize on women that are really frustrated and stuck. And they're very expensive. And in my
Hmm.
opinion, I don't know that they really do anything that much more spectacular than making sure you're taking a good quality fish oil. Turmeric is another one that is good for inflammation. Um, and I already said fish oil, right? Um, I have been told that the MSG chondroitin back when I was in my 30s and 40s, that was like the thing to take. But I have heard that the efficacy is not statistically significant any longer, and that you're better off doing the turmeric, fish oil, um, making sure too that you're prioritizing rest recovery. Are you getting enough protein in your diet? Protein actually supports your bones too? Um, are you drinking enough water? Um, are you eating enough vegetables in your diet? So, as far as joint pain is concerned, that's kind of a catch-22 too, because a lot of times it prevents people from working out, but strength training specifically is so good for your joints because it supports your joints.
Hmm.
So making sure that you're incorporating that, but you might find that you can't do certain plyometric exercises. There's a way to do box jumps and jump squats and jump lunges that aren't quite as impactful, but you can still be explosive. Um, again, reading your body, um, but also making sure you're looking at the foods that you're eating because inflammatory foods can cause a lot of joint pain. So, trying to pull those things out of your diet and eating just lower inflammatory foods, and then maybe adding in dairy after eliminating it for 21 days and see how your body responds. We were just talking about that the other day, again, because my daughter is going through, I think she might have, what do you call it? Not PCOS. My God, the words on the tip of my endometriosis.
Okay.
And we were talking about how dairy and gluten are so highly inflammatory that if she pulls that out, she may not have as much pain. That holds true for your joints too. Um, food inflammatories are gluten, I almost said protein, gluten, dairy, nightshades, alcohol, sometimes soy, sometimes red meat, sometimes eggs, sometimes oatmeal, legumes like um, beans with the case, the hard case on them, like what do you call it? Black beans, kidney beans, garbanzo beans. Those can be inflammatories for certain people. Um, what was the other thing? Oatmeal off the tip of my tongue. I was just talking about even organic oatmeals, the pesticides that they're putting on these things, um, is a cause for inflammation. So think about ways that you can eliminate those things or at least figure out like what is it that might be causing the inflammation in my joints. And food is a big one, especially when you're in that perimenopause, menopausal phase, because we
Hmm.
don't have the digestive enzymes that we once had. We may be more resistant to insulin. I just got my blood work back. My A1C is starting to creep up. I'm like, what the frick? That's hormone related. So, and I have a pretty darn clean diet, and I could probably throw a couple more hit workouts in during the week. But I'm like, cripes, I take 2 long walks a day. I do 3 intense training sessions. I get out on 1 or 2 bike rides. Like, how much more can I exercise and eat better?
Right.
So,
My chiropractor had recommended collagen for just not even for like hip pain or any other pain, just for, he said, your ligaments and your tendons and like everything. He's like, I recommend it to like all my patients. So I did start doing the collagen. I just need to just take it every day. And I just kind of take it hit or miss. So it's probably not doing anything.
throw it in are you a coffee drinker?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
Put it in your coffee. 2 scoops
Oh,
of that in your coffee. Um, but yeah, that helps. And I was talking about collagen earlier for the skin, but yes, it impacts your soft tissue as well. So,
good to
and
know.
I know
Thank you.
people are always asking about what brand. I just try to look for things that don't have a whole lot of ingredients in them. Um, so I think there's going to be a lot more information coming out on collagen in the future. Um, and actually, I should ask this doctor that I just started working with what his recommendation is because we're kind of aligned. Like he likes the Ascent protein. I like the Ascent protein. I'm like, okay. You like the David bars. I like the David bars. Which, by the way, if you have not heard of those yet. Um, the highest amount of protein in a bar yet. It's 28 grams of protein and they're only 150 calories. So, and I mean, some people don't like the taste. I think I finally figured out that the little white specks in there are coming from egg whites. So it was the guy that made RX bars he's the one that he's like, I see a need because RX bars can tend to be a little higher in calorie. And you're getting okay amounts of protein, but not great. And I think most of those bars are egg whites are in them. And that's what are in these too. They're just lower calorie. I don't think there's as many, they're clean too. The ingredients are clean. I don't think like in the RX bars they use dates, I believe, and a lot of nuts. That's not in there, and that's probably what keeps the carbs low and the fat content down and the calories down. So, check them out. Any other questions? You
Oh,
guys feel free. I mean, I'm in the group. If you ever have any question about anything, really, feel free to just message me. I love talking about this stuff, and I also love researching it. So, and I feel like I can navigate through a lot of the BS that's out there, which is really confusing to people, especially, unfortunately, when it comes to, like I said, the menopause. It's uh it's really kind of disheartening that because the stuff is so expensive. Um, so I can help you weed through that. And if anybody wants it, I do have um a couple of guides on supplements and adaptogens. So just let me know if you want that. I can grab your email and shoot that over to you. I was never really big on supplements because I always believed that you could get it through your food if you ate a balanced diet, and that's true. But the more and more our ground is over farmed, like not a whole lot of magnesium in our soil anymore. All the other, minerals in our soil, they're really becoming more depleted. So it is more important to supplement and really just fill in the blanks, so to speak, and not make that your main source, but make sure that you're putting your in a high quality supplement in your body too, um, versus running to Costco and getting gummies. I I was just talking, my best friend can't swallow pills. And it's funny, whenever I'm visiting her, she's pulling out her gummies. I'm like, really? How old are we?
that's so great. Oh man. All
So,
right. Well, I really appreciate this, Michelle. Lots of good info. I've also been putting Michelle's email in our newsletters. The next one I think I'm going to send out on Friday, or message me or Michelle, but we'll get you the email one way or another. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'll get this probably on YouTube tomorrow morning, so I'm gonna go watch the second half of the UConn game. Um,
cool.
that's that. So
The one thing I don't watch is March Madness. Penn State doesn't have a good team this year, so,
yeah,
or many other years for that
yeah.
matter.
My Pilates teacher, they're like all Penn State alums, and their son's there now, and he's applying to be the mascot. How
Get
cool. His
out.
dad was the mascot, and now the son's applying. I'm like, that's so cool.
That's
That
cool.
is so
Yeah.
cool.
But it's like quite the
Yeah.
process to
Yeah.
apply, apparently.
Well, you gotta be pretty darn fit. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. He's been taking like gymnastics lessons to like learn all these flips and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty
I
wild.
bet.
That's
That's
cool.
pretty cool though.
Yeah,
Yeah. We're a little cultish.
it's all good. It's all good. We all have to have our thing, right? So, all
Right.
right. Well, this was great. Thank
That's
you so much.
right.
Thanks for those of you who hopped on. We'll see you all soon.
Yeah.
All right. Good
Thank
night.
Take
you.
care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.